This is Dojo Intro to Tackle and Scouting, given by Vargrin. And we're going to join the recording a few seconds late. He's just introducing himself and his history.
And in the time that I've been in Brave, I'm quite proud to say that I've been Brave's top killer for every month since I've been here. I've rarely been off the top of the kill board. I do like shooting stuff, and it's pretty much the only thing I do in this game. So if you ever need help with PvE or industry or any of the rest of it, I am not the dude to ask. Before I was in Brave, I was part of, originally I was part of an alliance called Mostly Harmless way back when it was the original Northern Coalition, before it became NC Dot, and fought in like the Bob Wars and all that kind of stuff with big blobs. And then I joined a smaller group called Noir Mercenary Group, and with them fought in the Alliance tournament and did a lot of kind of fighting outnumbered, cloaky, ganky bullshit and high-sec war decks and all this kind of thing. So I've kind of PvP'd fairly consistently across New Eden. I've got a pretty good idea of how most sub-cap combat works, and I've got, I think it's something like 1,000+ kills in a malediction at this point, so it's a lot of tackle that I've flown in that time. So mostly what we're going to be talking about today is kind of like the entire checklist that you go through, kind of from like almost new client install, like day one Eve player, up to and including kind of like all the way through fleet combat and scouting and all the rest of it. As I was saying previously, if you're one of the guys who's a more experienced player, and I can see there's several of you in this channel who know almost all of what I'm going to say, I'm sure, do feel free to speak up if you know a better way to do something, or something I haven't mentioned, or anything like that you think is going to be useful. Please do shout out. I don't want me to be the only voice just droning on at you for however long it takes. So starting at the beginning then, before you even undock, obviously the first thing you do is make sure you're not in the clone that has any kind of implants that aren't necessary to what you're doing, because as a tackle pilot, bit of echo, as a tackle pilot you can expect to die quite a lot, and fear of death should be something that you get over pretty quickly. Like, you're not trying to suicide yourself, and you're certainly trying to stay alive, because dead tackle doesn't tackle anything. But there will be moments when you're in tackle, and the only way the ship is going to die is if you sacrifice yourself to do it. And mostly that's going to be things like authoruses and that kind of stuff. But you know, you will have to take that chance. So you don't want to risk yourself being in some training pod, or snakes or some shit like that. Just go cheap. Go cheap is almost always the best advice I can give. Ship choice. As far as ship choice goes, I mean, realistically, you can't get much better than a fleet interceptor. I would say that for those of you that can fly a malediction, that is my personal preference as being the best interceptor. If you want to know what fit you should use, honestly, the Brave Newbies fit is literally perfect. I wouldn't change anything at all in it. It has all of the tools that you need to be an excellent fleet interceptor, and great tackle, and do all of the jobs that I'm going to be talking about in this. With all of that being said, it's certainly not a hard and fast rule. I've been enjoying the crap out of assault frigates recently. I'm more than happy to share assault frigate fits, or in fact fits for anything else in any specific race that you want. I have a kind of fairly vast library of the different fits that you can use, and I'm always happy to kind of work on the stuff with you. So yeah, if kind of like once I'm done with the main part of the talk, if you want to have a chat about specific fittings, or you want me to have a look at fits that you've got, or you just want me to link some fits, more than happy to do so. Just ask me at the end. But for general purposes, you'll find the fleet interceptors, which is Malediction, Ares, Stiletto, and I'm actually not going to put Crow on that list because I don't think the Crow is as strong as the other ones. But Stiletto, the Malediction, the Ares is very much personal preference as to which of those is your favorite. For me, the Malediction is especially good because it gets that Ammar bonus to armor resists. So it's you get even more tank on it, and it's also has fantastic speed, fantastic agility, as you would expect. So it's helping you out even more staying alive, and staying alive is your principal job really as tackle, because as I say, dead tackle doesn't tackle anything, so you got to make sure that you're alive tackle. Obviously, before you undock, you want to check and make sure that you are fully stocked up on ammos and drones and charges and all the rest of that kind of stuff. But that kind of goes without saying, and I'm sure you guys know that by now. Generally, for fleets, you'll be told who to put on your watch list. So you don't have to think too hard about that. However, a lot of the time that you're going to be doing the stuff that I'm talking about will be in a standing fleet setting, because the vast majority of Braves PvP is standing fleet stuff. In those cases, knowing the right people to have on your watch list and generally having a pretty full watch list at all times during standing fleet is a good idea. If you're not sure how to add somebody to a watch list, it's very simple. Once you're in fleet with them, right click on their name pretty much anywhere, go to the fleet menu on that right click, and then add to watch list. And it'll just put them in a box on your screen, and you can use that box to quickly warp to them and also see if they're taking damage or anything else like that. Learning which people in standing fleet are good to have on your watch list is something that comes with time. But generally, if you hear people saying oh, I've got the probes out or something, you want to have him on your watch list. If you can see guys who are flying tackle and catching people, you want to have them on your watch list. If you've got some dude who's baiting, have him on the watch list. But yeah. Quite often FCs will be good people to have on the watch list because they'll generally be calling stuff out and saying warp to me, these kind of things. So if you see Rem or you see Apollo or Var or one of these guys, stick them on the watch list. Always worth having there. Right, there are also a few other tools which you can use to assist you in a lot of these things. 3 specific websites that I'll talk about, which are zkill.lan and dscan.me, I think is the one we use, but any of the dscan sites really, I don't think it matters that much. I think dscan.me is the one run by Test, isn't it? So that's why we like it.
That's the Goon one, I think.
Oh right, which is the Test one?
WTF, I think.
Yeah, that sounds right. All right, so yeah, that one. But yeah, I forget which one it is. I have bookmarked, but the vast majority of the time, it doesn't matter too much. Just as long as you can get a D-scan in. The operation of the D-scan sites is very simple. You just hit your D-scan button, Control A, Control C in the D-scan window, and then Control V into the box and click accept or whatever, and it will just give you a link and you paste that into Fleet Chat. Very, very easy and quick to do. You could just give it a test whenever you want, but it's pretty idiot proof, so I'm sure you can work that out. .lan, .com, I'm pretty sure, is a superb mapping tool. It is essentially no different than the in-game map, except for me personally, I find it staggeringly easier to use, so much easier. The in-game map is a huge unwieldy thing. Doesn't split by regions or anything like that. Whatever way you're looking at it, you're always looking at the entire New Eden map, which can often be very awkward, especially if you're just trying to quickly navigate. It's also useful to be able to have a map open on another screen for those of you that have multiple monitor setups, or simply just to be able to tab to it as opposed to having to actually open the map interface in game. When I'm hunting, .lan is the primary tool that I'm using to send me to various locations. And in fact, I will link it in Alliance chat now, if you give me just a second. There you go. Thank you, Narka. So Narka's linked catch for us. So if you take a look at the catch map, up in the top right-hand side, you can see there's got catch on the drop-down menu. The drop-down menu to the left of that, I'm not sure what it will be set on for you, but for me, that is set on NPC kills delta. And what NPC kills delta is over the last, is it hour, I think? It is the change in the number of NPCs which have been killed in that system. So if you see a big green number, what that means is that somebody is actively ratting in that system. And if you see a big red number, it means that the amount of ratting that's gone on in that system has dropped drastically over the last little while. So what it shows you is kind of like essentially where ratting activity is. And by no means should you be like, oh, well, I should avoid the red ones, because if I'm honest, like it really can vary. When the map gets updated is often quite kind of long periods in between, because it does the same sync up that the Eve map does. This just draws data directly from that. So yes, somebody may have stopped ratting there, but they may have started again, so it's still worth going to check. But if you're going to any particular region as a scout, for a fleet or something like that, have the region open in .lan, have an eye out. You can have a look at like jumps in the last hour. You can look at ships and pod kills, see where the busy places are. You can check sovereignty and see whose stuff it is. All of this kind of stuff. It's all very, very valuable information, especially for a scout to have. So yeah, just generally have .lan open at any time that you're scouting, so that you have a very nice, quick idea of where everything is. And it also means that you can respond to what your FC wants to do. Like if you're on a fleet where you're hunting ratters specifically, you can help the FC by being there and saying, do you want me to go and check the system? It looks like it's got good delta. It's like a couple of jumps off the path. If I find anything, you can bring the fleet. And FCs will appreciate you doing things like that. So that's a good way that you can kind of help out. So yeah, that's .lan. The other site, which again I'm fairly certain that everyone's going to be familiar with, is Zkill. I mean, really, at this point, if you've been playing Eve for like more than a day and nobody's linked Zkill in some chat channel you're in, I'd be amazed. Thank you, Narka. So yeah, Zkill is essentially a complete history of everybody that's ever died in this game, and who killed them, and what they killed them with, and how much damage they did to them, and how much damage they took, and what their fit was, and literally all of the information that comes off every single kill mail that is ever generated. And as such, is just a superb information tool. And for many more ways than just like, oh, what's this guy? How's he fit his ship? Like if you're like, oh, this dude's in a hurricane, I'll go and look him up. So you type his name into Zkill, so have a look at his losses, and you're like, oh, okay, there's a couple of hurricanes he's lost. Oh, he likes to fit them with auto cannons and armor tank. Okay, so you know roughly how to deal with him. But as well as that, it's also just an incredibly good resource for you to get good fits. So if you see somebody flying ships well, if you see someone doing cool stuff, by all means, go and look them up on Zkill and steal their fits. You can export all of the fits that you find on Zkill straight in game and just hit buy all, and literally you just got that ship that dude had, and you fly it the way that he was flying it, and see if you can do it. So like I'm really not kidding when I say like so many of my kills, so many of my fits, come directly from Zkill. In that I'll just see somebody will come here, they'll fight brave catch standing, they'll do really well, moonwalk out, and I'll just be like, god damn, that was amazing. I want that fit, I want that ship, and I'll just go and buy it because they'll have lost one at some point. So there you go. So yeah, very, very useful resource, Zkill, and I would strongly recommend that you use it to its full potential as much as you can. So that's all the kind of before you get started. That's like, things to have open on the other screen and check your fits and all the rest of the stuff. So when you're undocking, for your very first undock, I'm going to talk a little bit here about the way you should lay your screen out, because having it done wrong can really cost you, and there are certain things that you need to have visible at all times. Right, if you take a look now in Alliance chat, I have linked my Twitch stream, which is not something that I thought I would be saying. But in that, you can see my screen layout. I don't know how much of a delay there is on it. It doesn't look like there's too much.
No, it's pretty good.
Cool. All right.
It's okay.
I would certainly suggest you mute the the Twitch stream, because otherwise it's
Way
just
ahead
going
of
to be otherwise it's just going to be absolutely horrific echoing back. Right. So this is the way I have my windows laid out. Now, this is not the only way to do it, and there is no 100% correct way to do it, but there are definitely wrong ways to do it. So I'm going to talk about like some of the things you want to avoid and some of the things you really want to do. So yeah, the first thing is the local window. What you'll see is my local window is quite large, and what I've done is make sure that I've set it to the compact member list, with the very obvious idea of being able to see as many people in local as I can at any one time. Being as it's GE, it's kind of like, you know, it's pretty much always like this, but generally you want to have as much visibility of local as you can without, you know, completely ruining your screen with it. So that's how I prefer to do it. Again, entirely up to you how you want to lay it out, but I would certainly recommend give yourself a lot of view of the local window. Something I also know that other people like to do is if you click in anywhere in the local window, hit Control A, it highlights everything in there, and then whenever somebody comes in or goes out, well, not goes out, but whenever somebody new comes into the system, you can tell very quickly because they will not be highlighted. So it's easy for you to identify new plus ones. So below my local window, obviously these are just all my chat channels and stuff down here. Arrange as you wish. Right, so the next thing up here is my D-scan. My D-scan window is incredibly important. It's one of the main tools that you're going to use in scouting. Have this visible literally 100% of the time. You will see I do also have it stacked here with another window. This is my people and places window. This is not something that I need to access particularly often, but it is occasionally useful to have it up here just so that I can kind of, you know, have a quick look through on bookmarks and these kind of things if I need to do some sorting. But generally, I won't ever have my people and places visible. And if I'm honest, it's actually just there as a legacy from the days when you could add people to contacts and you would be notified when they came online. So in this list, I have a whole ton of like old PL Titan pilots and things like that, and Bob Titan pilots, but that doesn't actually work anymore. So yeah, I think it's just still there in the hopes that one day it will. So for your D-scan window, the way I would always recommend that you have it sorted is by distance arrow up, because what you want is that when you hit D-scan, as I've just done there, if you're still watching the stream, is all of the things that I do not have a range on will be sorted to the top. And this is what you want, because obviously all of the things that you have a range on are either visible on your overview because they're on grid or because they're structures or gates or whatever, you know, essentially anything that's inside your 14.3 AU D-scan range, but that you have already identified. So what you really want is just the things that you haven't identified to be up here as quickly as possible. So yeah, distance and sort by top. For the filters here, definitely kind of good D-scanning can depend a lot on switching which filters that you're using. The vast majority of the time I will be using active overview filters. And what that means is that it will just use whichever tab I have selected over here in my overview. So a lot of the time, it's not really going to need to be too complex. If you're kind of like, hunting for a VNI or something like that, then yeah, you can just have the combat one on, and it will just show you the various ships that will pop up. I mean, if you want to narrow it down even more, you can switch to like a very kind of specific one where it's only showing ships in particular. These kind of things are actually very useful if you want to give D-scans of enemy fleet compositions and that kind of stuff. But yeah, generally, that should be pretty much everything that you need to kind of preset on the D-scanner window. We will go back to the D-scan window in just a little while, because actually locating people in space and fast use of the D-scan window is a very vital skill. So yeah, go ahead.
Question.
Yeah, sure.
Are you using 90% UA scale? Or you have really high resolution, or why do you have so much space?
I have a pimp monitor, so I have a very
I
very high resolution.
Like 4K.
I was going to ask that, so I'm trying to mess about my windows, and I'm like, what is this?
Yeah. Sorry, you may find that it's difficult to fit things in as I have, because I have a nice high resolution screen. So yeah, but like I say, the way I've done it is not necessarily the perfect way to do it. It's just the way that works for me. So just kind of you can't necessarily lay it out exactly like this. It may be a little bit more difficult, but certainly just try to keep these things kind of clear. So big local window. Make sure you can always see your D-scan. The next little box of nested windows I've got up here contain 3 different things, which are all reasonably important, but none of them kind of properly like 100% vital, like at the same time. So you can kind of feel free to dock these together, which is what I choose to do. The first of these is my combat log. If you want to see and know how to access the combat log, you can hit your NeoChem menu up at the top here, and I believe it's accessories, log and messages. And if you open that up, it'll just give you like this nice little window of your log and messages. Once you've got it open, hit this weird little funnel icon, I guess, and go down and switch messages and log window to 1000 because you want as many messages showing in there as you can. And then yeah, just pick a location for it and stick it there, and don't worry too much about moving it. The reason you want to have your combat log open is, as well as the ability to just go back and kind of recap what's happened and work out if you did actually point that guy or something like that, is it does help a lot if you're kind of in a fight, you've taken a couple of shots and you have a moment to just kind of go away and think about kind of like what's going on, and actually take a look at your combat log. You can kind of see very quickly, oh, okay, these are the kind of weapons that people are using against me. These are the damage types they're using. These are the ammunition choices they're making. You can learn an awful lot from the combat log, even in kind of like the heat of battle. Because, quite often there'll be an initial engagement and the sides may split and then the fight will go back on again. And the more information you can gain in that amount of time from your combat log, the better prepared you are to go back in. Because it means suddenly, hey, I know that Brutix never swapped to null, even though like he was being scram kited, so he probably doesn't have like the right ammo. He's not thinking about it. So if I keep doing that, great. Then I'm pretty confident that he's not going to be able to hit me, or anything along these lines. It's all just like little bits of useful information that you can kind of try to keep in mind. Obviously, in addition to the combat log, you also have the ability to physically look at ships, which is definitely something that I would recommend, and learning the different types of missile systems that are available to them. Obviously, certain ships will only have very, very kind of limited choice in weaponry, but certain ships, the difference in the guns can mean an awful lot of difference in the way that you're going to tackle them. For example, the difference between something that has blasters and therefore probably has a scram and a web on it, and the difference between something that has railguns and thus you want to kind of get under his transversal and not like sit off, let him blap you. So these are important distinctions to be able to note. Okay. So yeah, that's the combat log. Like I say, it's not vital, but certainly good to have it up, good to have access to it, and good to kind of just keep a bit of an eye on it when you can.
When do you put the watch list?
Yeah, I'll show you. One sec. There is my watch list. Just down there next to my drone window. So I've just got Narca on there at the moment. Also, you'll see they've now added this color assignment thing that you can do to it. If you're not sure how to access that.
Vargrin shouting.
Oh, was I? Shit. Sorry, didn't mean to.
Sorry, Vargrin, can you link your Twitch in Fleet?
There you go, linked again.
Thank you.
Just gonna make sure I'm not actually.
Everyone heard about your pimped monitor, so want to see it.
Right, okay. Just making sure I'm not actually shouting anymore. No, I'm not. We're good. We're good. Okay. Right. So where were we? Yeah, the fleet window. So yeah, I dock the fleet window with the log of messages normally. I mean, there's so many reasons why you want to have the fleet window up. Jesus Christ, we've got 100 in standing right now. That's pretty nuts. Mainly, it's so you can have the history window open. So here you can see my broadcast history. In fact, yeah, this is actually all me broadcasting shit for that Hurricane fight, wasn't it? I think normally if somebody else is broadcasting, it tells you who the person is that's broadcast. Yeah, it's just like carbon, these shields. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, so because it's me broadcasting, it doesn't actually say Vargrin on it, but it would, I assume it would say that for you guys. You can see also I have the various broadcasts colored, which I personally find to be very useful. So Logi broadcast, you can see there are in blue. Then we've also got target broadcasts are in red. I also have a line set to green as well. There you go. So you can see all of the various kind of colors. I think you set that up in your hamburger menu, and then where is it?
Oh god.
Broadcast setting.
That's
Yeah, broadcast settings, and then you can choose the colors associated. You can also choose to turn on and off certain ones. I tend not to, because I like to see when people are broadcasting for Shield, even when I'm not in Logi. And if you, like me, actually kind of prefer to see all of the broadcasts, then it's a very good idea to color code them, because you want to be able to kind of distinguish very quickly between clicking on a hostile and clicking on a friendly. Something else which I feel like I should point out here, because there's definitely people that don't know it, is that if you hold Control and left click anything out of your broadcast window, it will lock that person up. Obviously, like, everyone's on tether right now, so it's not going to work, but yeah, you can see it does actually kind of start to try targeting people. So if you're trying to follow broadcast in a fleet, very easy thing to do is just literally hold Control, left click on all the ones that are target broadcast as they pop up, and then just engage your guns on it. So no worry about having to find people in overviews or any of the rest of it. Just do it straight from the fleet window. You'll find it a lot easier. So yeah, that's the very obvious reason to have your fleet window open. The other one that I have nested here is the probe scanner. And this is actually probably the default two screens that I will kind of have almost always active, with the exception of like when we're in a big fleet battle, when there's targets being broadcast, in which case I will switch to the fleet window. The principal reason for having the probe scanner open, if you're not in a combat probing ship, is because you want to be able to find people at anomalies very quickly. If you're hunting ratters, this is where ratters are going to be. This is kind of like one of the principal jobs you do as a scout. So being able to see all of these various sites immediately is very, very useful. If you're not sure how to access this window, I'm pretty sure you originally get to it by opening the solar system map, and it comes docked inside of this, and you can hit a little button which will drop it out with the solar system map, and then you can just kind of dock it over here and then have the solar system map as a separate entity, which is something that I will tend to do. Again, entirely personal preference how you want to set all of this stuff up, but I would strongly recommend that you have your D-scan window and your probe scan window always being visible. or always being able to be accessed very, very quickly. And in fact, yeah, hardly ever be in a situation where your D-scan is not available to you, because it's such a valuable tool for anything that's not immediately on grid with you. Your D-scan is how you find out. Okay. I'll talk a little bit about kind of the way that I set up my stuff down here. It's entirely personal preference, so kind of whatever works for you. First of all, always have the tactical overlay on. This button here, Control D by default. Just turn it on now. Never ever turn it off. Honestly, it's so good. There's so much information that comes from it. You cannot possibly hope to calculate all of these trajectories off the top of your head. You need to see if people have clicked approach on you, or what you're doing, or where your orbit is going to take you. It's vital. So yeah, turn the tactical overlay on. Never turn it off again. When it comes to, I know some people like to have passive modules turned on. And there are, in fact, a reasonable number of circumstances where actually showing passive modules is not the worst idea. Just to give an example, if you are in so let's say a frigate with a medium shield extender, at the point when your shields have run out, so you're bleeding into armor, your shields are gone, you've still got your damage controls, you've still got a bit of structure tank, but the shield's gone. At that point, it is actually more effective for you to offline that module, which you can do by right-clicking and choosing put offline, because it's giving you no value from shield, but it's also increasing your signature. So if you offline the module at that point, which you can do a lot quicker if you have it shown, then you actually will live a little bit longer. However, that is incredibly micromanagey and playing at a level that I don't expect anybody to really be doing, unless you're like super elite pro 1v1 PvP, like taking on big gangs or something like that, when those kind of margins really make a difference. But as I say, it is worth taking into account. Generally, as a rule, I tend to have my passive modules off, but that's also because I don't often run with things like shield extenders on frigates. I tend to kind of go to more towards the armor or structure tanks. Again, that's personal preference. If you do find you're flying a lot of frigates that have shield extenders and things like that on, it's very useful to be able to just offline it once you're out of shields, so that you drop a bit of sig, so that you live a bit longer, because that can be the difference between, living and dying.
Vagrin, a question.
Sure.
And how about seeing if you overheat a module, if it's burned out or not? That might also be used. So can you see it otherwise?
Yeah. No, you can't. Okay. So yeah, so when heat transfers through overheating, it will transfer into kind of the other modules, including the passive modules, and it's entirely possible for one of your passive modules to be burnt out by the heated modules around it, and for you essentially not to notice. The one thing I would say is that if you're at the point where you're legit burning out passive modules from the amount of heat that you're putting in, then you are right on the edge of death anyway. So you're going to have a lot of things that you're thinking about at that point. So yeah, it's kind of like, yes, it's all valuable information, but play it as you wish. Just be aware of the problems of kind of having it turned off. And I definitely am, and I know it's something that I need to kind of get in the habit of not doing. As far as module layout goes, I really strongly recommend that you try to keep the same module layout across every ship you fly. Across every ship I fly, this button here will be my guns. This will be my prop mod. This will be my tank. This will be my tackle. This will probably be tackle as well, because I fly a lot of tackle ships. But yeah, generally, I will always try to have the same modules in the same sorts of locations if I can. And the reasoning is, as I'm sure, very simple, because you want it to be about muscle memory. You don't want to have to think in combat, which button did I put my scram on? You want that to happen by you thinking scram the dude. You don't want to be like, all fumbling around and trying to click buttons and all of this kind of stuff. You want to know where the keyboard shortcuts are, or mouse shortcuts, or whatever you choose to assign it to. Have that shortcut ready and just be ready to fire the things, and it should happen without you even really thinking about it. The thought should be on the other side of combat and never on, like, you know, where did I put my buttons? So yeah, you really want to focus on make it muscle memory, keep stuff in the same place, try to have a system that you keep true across all of your ships as much as you can, and stick to it.
Sorry, Vargrin, can I have one question?
Sure.
About that model layout, is it make some difference when you are fitting a ship and when you overheat a model? What type of layout do you need to about the damage? Because when you overheat one, you damage the other. So
yeah, generally the way that you're going to try to do it as much as you can is to put modules that will take a lot, that you're going to heat a lot, or that generally have like a lot of heat usage. Put it on one or other end of the rack, because heat does not transfer. Like the racks aren't cyclical, so the heat doesn't transfer from one end to the other. What it will do though is apply more heat damage to the module directly next to it, because it won't be spreading to two modules, it'll just spread to one. But the amount of heat damage, and honestly, I am spitballing this entire segment. I am not a numbers guy at all, and I'm sure the Eve Uni has like a much better explanation page for it than I can possibly give you. But as far as I've been told by people who spend a lot more time on this than me, is you want to put like the highest risk modules at each end. You want to buffer them with like your various passive or less heated modules. And when it comes to weapon systems, again, you want to kind of spread them out as much as you can. So if you've got like 8 high slots, 6 turrets, and 2 utilities, you want to have like two turrets, a NOS, 2 turrets, a NOS, 2 turrets. So you kind of spread them out as much as you can and try to split the heat damage up, just allowing you to kind of heat things longer. And I will talk a little bit more about heating in a little while. But yeah. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, thanks for the explanation.
That's fine. And like I say, I am absolutely not a numbers guy. Like, we have plenty of people in this alliance who are superb at the various like formulas and math that goes into how all of this shit works. And there are huge conclusive write-ups with fucking graphs and data that I cannot stand to look at on Eve Uni. If you're into any of that kind of stuff, feel free to go and have a look. As far as I basically just run off whatever. It's a video game. I'll do it how it is and listen to the people that tell me to do it like this. So yeah, that's all I'm passing on here. I don't know the math.
I think if I can just interrupt here for a second.
Of course.
For anybody who might not know this, is that you can rearrange the buttons for the modules on your overview and space completely independent from your fitting. So the way you set it up can be different from the way it automatically is from your ship.
As you'll see, I'm doing, if you're still watching the stream right now, just literally dragging and dropping the modules around at will. So do feel free to do that.
Yeah,
all right.
Yeah.
So onto the overview. I would imagine at this point, the vast majority of you are using some kind of overview pack. In case you're not, I will drop into Alliance right now the ZS overview channel. Instructions on how to set up their overview are in there. I am using almost exactly the default one that they use with a few minor changes. It's nothing particularly spectacular. I also added a couple of tabs at the end here. My general one is literally just like the bog standard like Eve general default. So it just kind of shows like everybody and everything, which I find to be quite useful on occasion. And then the other tab that I added, I've called it pure, and I actually made the overview myself, although someone has since pointed out to me that it's already in the ZS overview pack under ships only. And a ships only overview is incredibly valuable. You'll see on here that it says nothing found. And it will always say nothing found unless you are on grid with someone who is neutral or red or orange or whatever. Basically, someone who is a baddie. And at that point, they will be the only thing that is showing up on this overview. This is hugely helpful if you are trying to do something like catch somebody on a gate. So you're waiting for a target to pop up, because what it means is that as opposed to your normal combat overviews, where you'll be sitting here waiting for the dude to pop up, and I don't know about the rest of you, but I tend to find that like half the time the dude will pop at the right range, and the other half he'll pop down at the bottom here. And it's like, because there's some kind of lock thing involved when like your mouse cursor is moving, but it seems very inconsistent. It drives me nuts sometimes the way that people move around the overview when they first arrive on it. So this pure tab, this ships only tab, allows me to literally get rid of all of the other clutter and not have to care about it at all. So I can just sit here, I can pre-activate my scram and web or whatever, and just literally be sitting here with my mouse over the point that they're going to arrive at, and the second they pop up, I left click, already targeting them. The second the targeting finishes, both the modules fire. Bosh, there you go, scram web done. So yeah, if you're trying to catch people on gates or from decloak or in literally like any situation where you just want to be able to catch them really quickly, where speed is of the essence, and as your tackle, speed is always of the essence, have a pure tab ready and use it pretty much any time you're in any situation like that. It's like your go-to tab. The one other thing I would recommend in the overview is showing brackets. So up here at the top, for every single tab, you're going to have to do this, I'm afraid. It doesn't hold for all of them. If you hit the overview button, and actually, there you go, it should stop showing all. But yeah, so that's what would be set to as default, and you just go in and you go show all brackets. Just do that on every single tab. Every single tab you want to show all brackets. That's at least my personal preference. There can be a couple that you don't if you want, and if you find it slows your PC down and causes problems, then obviously do this at your discretion. But for me, having absolutely everything on the 3D grid and being able to see every single object in space is really, really important. You don't want them on your overview, because your overview would be like a cluttered nightmare, but being able to physically see them in space is very, very valuable. I mean, if you're looking for warp-ins or looking for things that might decloak you if you're a cloaky, or well, I mean, any one of hundreds of reasons really as to why you would want to be able to see something. It's like, so you spot like somebody's corpse over there. As with corpses, as with things like scanner probes, you can bookmark them. So you bookmark the corpse, and then you walk to the corpse, and then you catch the guy who was sitting near it, who thought that there was nothing near to him that you could get to. So, you know, good reasons to have stuff on brackets. Always show all brackets. I mean, the only time you really wouldn't want to is when it's like some insane keep star fight and there's like 3,000 people in local, and it's just like the minute you turn on brackets, it's just kiss your PC goodbye for the next 5 minutes while it tries to load it. So, yeah.
Yeah, one thing to mention, you can also, not via an in-game option, but you can turn all ship brackets on. So it shows all the names of the pilots and the ships on grid. But yeah, that can get very ugly in fleet fights. If
Yeah,
you
I would
Google it, like
definitely wouldn't recommend doing that.
All ship brackets on. There's a forum post by Logibro about it. You have
If
to
you
change
see
a few
here
settings in the game files, but that can help.
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend. I really wouldn't recommend doing this. If you see here that if you're watching this stream, I've selected Usian. It would be like that little readout, but on every single ship, whether you're selecting them or not.
Yeah.
So it's an absolute nightmare. Would never recommend you do that. Frankly,
it's a nightmare.
More information than you need. Yeah. Okay, so I think.
Sorry,
yeah,
question.
Yeah, go ahead.
How did you move your notification feed?
Click and hold, like so. So left click and hold, and then it kind of goes big, and then you can drag it.
Oh, crap. Cool.
Yeah, no props.
Can I ask something?
Amazing.
Yeah, go ahead.
How do you make a ships only tab?
Oh, right. Yeah, I actually don't have it shown here, but there should be a little plus button up at the top. Just next to where all your tabs are. Yeah, if you hit that plus and then call it ships only or pure PvP or whatever you want to call it, really. And then you can either, if you have like the full ZS overview pack, then you can just set that to be, as I say, right click it, load preset to tab, and then it's ships only. Or if you want to do it yourself, you can load any one of the kind of the PvP basic one, like the PvP basic plus Nuke minus NPC, and then you literally just go through the list and right click and then remove from overview and just remove everything from the overview, and then just save it and you've got your own one. And that's basically what I did because I didn't know there was a preset for it.
You can also do that from overview settings as well.
Yeah, I can talk you through it after if you want to break down of like step by step how to build an overview.
Yeah,
I built my own. So
I was going to say, Narka runs his own overview, Var runs his own overview. There are a good few people with some great knowledge on it, and feel free to pick their brains because I'm definitely not the guy. I very much just use other people's resources as much as I possibly can. So feel free to do that as well. Just one more thing that I'll talk about very briefly on your overview. If you open your overview settings and then go to columns, which I already have it set on here rather usefully, these are the ones that I like to show. And they are, you can kind of drag them up and down this list, and that will affect which order they show in over here. Icon is first. I think by default, I don't think you can change that, not that you'd want to. Distance, name, type, all fairly obvious. I don't bother with corp. I do bother with alliance because alliance is far more relevant for the kind of stuff that we tend to do. And when a guy's not in an alliance, generally he's either a scout for, he's like a NPC corp scout, or he's just, some solo dude or something. So it's not that big a deal. Velocity is hugely important. Obviously, you always want to know how fast your opponent is traveling. You need to know if you can catch the guy. You need to know if you need to heat to be able to catch him. So very, very important. Transversal and radial and angular are entirely your choice as to which one of these you've used, I've found. The only important thing really to know about any of them is that you want to keep it high. Because basically, like the higher transversal, the higher radial velocity or whatever, you can see here people like spiking up with like nice high transversals and stuff. What that means is that it's essentially harder for ships to track you. The higher your transversal is relative to them, is the harder it is for them to hit you. Obviously, this is not true of missile systems where it's just speed and signature radius are the only things that matter. But it's still very, very valuable information. You want to know kind of. And again, the specifics of the numbers don't matter that much when it comes to things like transversal and radial and all the rest of it. It's just, is it relatively high? Am I maintaining like a good velocity according to this bloke? Is he getting easy shots on me? And all of that will come over time. And if I'm honest, the vast majority of the time, that column is not massively useful and you're not really looking at it a lot. Mostly you're going to be eyeballing it and just going, am I at a decent angle from this guy, and not giving him easy shots on me. Or sometimes it'll be like, I want to absolutely minimize my transversal. I want to give him good shots on me. I want him to feel like he's going to kill me, so he'll stick around on grid for long enough for me to kill him. Which again, completely legit tactic, and you'll find you'll do that quite a lot in assault frigates, especially against if you're in the specifically tanked version against whichever damage type they're firing. So if you're flying Minmatar against Amar lasers, then you feel very, very confident, and then you minimize transversal and you just say, yeah, dude, shoot me. Go on, you're going to get an easy kill. And then he'll stick around and hopefully get scrammed. So yeah, that's generally the overview type stuff. Right, so we'll run through the quick kind of once you've got all of that sorted out, obviously that is basically everything. The only other thing I haven't talked about is down here. This is just the collapsed version of the cargo window. You can see here, I can switch it back to the normal one. So this is just your kind of standard when you open the cargo hold in space. That's what it looks like. You can enable compact mode, which is that little button there. And then personally, I like to kind of shrink it down and have it out of the way here. The reason that I do this is because I'm a big fan of using combat drugs, things like Overclocker and Quaif and all the other ones, Blue Pill, Frentix, blah, 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 the anti-pharmacons from Wormholes, all very, very useful. And especially the kind of the cheaper ones like the Overclocker 1 and things like that, which just give you a small speed increase, I think are very, very worth it, because it's like $1 million or less, I think, for some of the cheaper drugs. So generally, I've actually just used mine in that hurricane fight, so I need to dock up and get some more. But generally what I'll have is I'll have the window scrolled down here. These bottom two will be like Quaif Ultra and like Overclocker or something. And just in the middle of combat, if I feel like I need them, I can right click and consume, and then bosh, drugs are done. And there's no kind of awkward inventory management like opening the thing and finding the bloody things. They're just like set there, done already. So yeah, right, I think there's everything on the screen layout. I'm going to move on because I realise I've been talking for quite a while. And in fact, I'm going to stop talking for like a minute and have some coffee, and then we'll carry on. Okay. So that's all your basic kind of like first time setup. When you undock, every single time, or when you go through any kind of session change timer, so jump through a gate or anything like that, there is an order by which you should be trying to do stuff. The very first thing that you do when you either jump into a system or undock or anything like that, well, if you're on Docker, you've already done it, but yeah, is check local. And the reason you check local first is because, well, for two reasons. Firstly, it's the first thing that will load. When you jump into a new system, before your grid loads, before your dscan loads, before anything else, local will pop up. So it's the first thing that you can possibly report back to your FC, so it's the first thing that you should report back. It also gives the most valuable information initially, which is literally the number of hostile people who are in the system. And obviously, that's the first thing that you want to report back as quickly as you can. So the vast majority of the time, if we're talking about you're just in GE, everyone's going to know. You don't need to be reporting this kind of stuff, but just for your own personal, knowing what's going on, when you log on, when you're going to undock, when there's combat happening, you check local, see what's actually there, see the numbers, understand what kind of a fight you're going to be going into. So, very usefully, when you jump through a gate or when you undock, your dscan window will cycle automatically. So when you're jumping into a system, you never need to hit your dscan key. By default, your dscan key is V. You can rebind this to anything you want. Just be aware, as a scout, you will be pressing it about 1,000 times a fleet. And that is not me overestimating. I genuinely think it's somewhere around that number, because you're really going to be kind of updating it like crazy, especially when you're flying through systems, trying to see if there's anybody there, trying to see if there's any easy ratting targets. You're going to be spamming that V key. As I said, rebind it if you wish. I know some people have it set to mouse key, some people set it to spacebar. For me, I keep it as V just because that's what I was used to. That's what the original keybind was, so that's just how I learned it. So whatever way you've learned it is fine. If you haven't learned it at this point, pick a key that's going to be good and just use that. But just be very aware, kind of the background noise to you doing any kind of scouting is going to be that, just that constant noise of the dscan window going off. So what else are we talking about? Module layout, yeah, I talked about that. Ammo types. Choosing of ammo types. If you know what kind of thing you are going up against, in general in fleet combat, your FC will tell you what ammo type to load, and that's fine. Just do exactly what the FC says. Don't have to think about it. In standing fleet, that's not always the case. So if you know that you're going to be going up against shield ships, generally you know EM and thermal are quite good against shield. If you're going to be going up against armor, you generally know explosive and kinetic tend to be quite good. However, when you get down into the kind of the nitty gritty of things, you also have to take into account things like Tech 2 resists and resistance holes and all of these other things that come with the kind of the in and out ship fitting. And also you can never account for the fact that the guy you're fighting might be playing fucking 4G chess, or he might be pants on head retarded. So like, who knows? He might be running like 5 explosive hardeners on his Myrmidon for some reason, and you're shooting explosive and you're like, why isn't he dying? So yeah, there's no hard and fast rule. There's just vague guidelines you can try to fit to. Generally, as a rule, I find thermal to be a very good damage choice. So if you're in the type of ship that can choose your damages, so like projectile weapons or missiles, Phase Plasma and Inferno tend to be two that I choose a lot, because a lot of the ships that we tend to fight around here tend to be shield, because they're kitey stuff and they like to run away. However, in a lot of shield ships, you'll find that the EM hull gets patched because the EM is very, very weak. But it's generally not as worthwhile patching the thermal hull because it's not as weak, kind of like from a start. But once all the ships resist to running and they've got their invuln on or whatever, then thermal will be the weakest one to go for. As I said, not always true. Especially you have to be careful of that thermal when you're talking about Caldari and Galente Tech 2 ships, because they are very well tanked against thermal and kinetic damage. And likewise, Mimitar Tech 2 ships are reasonably well tanked against thermal and very well tanked against EM. So knowing the kind of the differences and where the resist holes are is very important. However, all of that being said, it's not as important for you as tackle. It's just something that's worth knowing. And especially if you're flying like an assault frigate as tackle, where you're kind of, yeah, you're tackle, but you're also ripping holes in people, then for those kind of situations, very, very useful to be able to preload the correct damage type and really maximize what you're doing. Orbit ranges. Now, setting up your default orbit range, you can do by right-clicking up here in the selected item window on the orbit button, and then set default orbit distance. Now, the default orbit distance will change depending on which ship you're in. So if you set it to be 22 kilometers in a Malediction, and then you get into your Jaguar and you set it to be like 4K in your Jaguar, then it should remember that in between ships. So if I switch back to my Malediction now, it should go back to that 22. Correct orbit distances, really, only you can find out what they are for you, because it depends on your skills, and it depends on your ship, and it depends on your speeds, and all of these kind of things. Generally, if you set an orbit distance, you will never orbit closer than that, but you will often orbit quite a lot further away, because depending on your ship speed and agility, your ship may not be able to turn fast enough in order to maintain the orbit at the distance you wanted it to. So, using my Malediction as an example, the unheated point range on a max skilled Malediction is 30 kilometers for a Tech 2 warp disruptor. With that in mind, what I set my orbit range to is normally somewhere between 20 and 22 kilometers. I think 22 is what I tend to have it set on by default. In practice, a 22 kilometer orbit actually will put you out somewhere around 26 to 27 kilometers when you're orbiting a guy. And that can get even further when you're on the rear end of the orbit and your ship is having to kind of turn extra hard to keep up with the guy. So quite a lot of the time, what I'll find is when I'm orbiting at like 22, you'll have to watch their distance to you very carefully and be prepared to heat your point if you see them kind of drifting to 29, 30, 31 kilometers, because then they're going to drop out of range. Thankfully, heated point range on a Malediction with good skills is 36 kilometers. So it does give you a lot of extra space to work with, and you can heat your point for quite a long time before it will burn out. It's very rare that you will burn out a point unless you just completely forget that you've got it heated. So generally it's not a huge issue. But yeah, experiment with your orbit ranges. You are definitely going to be using orbit, not all of the time, but it will come in useful, and you want to have an orbit that you can just apply and will go to a good range. So at any point you can just like orbit a mobile depot, orbit another ship or anything like that, pick a distance, turn on your prop mods or whatever it is that you would normally have in combat, and see where you actually end up, and then adjust your orbit range to compensate. So if your point range is like 24 kilometers and you want to, I would say, try like a 15, 16 kilometer orbit, something like that. That'll probably push you out to be at about 20, 21 kilometers, which leaves you about 3 kilometers spare. And then you've got a bit of heat in case you drift outside of that. Obviously, the things you need to be careful of is getting close to other ships, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in just a second. But generally, like if you have your orbit too close, obviously you're going to get scram, web, muted, all that horrible stuff that happens to tackle, and then you may die if you're not kind of prepared for this. So yeah, find out what your orbit range is and set it up, and set it up as quickly as you can. Like just be doing it now where you're kind of half listening to me. Right. Preheating modules. Obviously, we talked a little bit about heat and heat damage and all of these kind of things. I'm just going to say right now, if you are in any kind of PvP combat in this game and you come out of the fight without heat damage on your modules, you have been doing it wrong. There should never be a PvP fight that you do not heat your modules in. Heating is incredibly important. It's the difference between winning and losing, and generally the side that has better control over their heat and uses it better will be the guys that come out ahead, because you will be getting so much more out of your ships. Like, given an equal fight, if one side is heating better than the other, that's the side I'm going to pick is going to win, because heating really does improve the performance. You should be doing it kind of independently on your own as much as you can, and obviously listening to FC's calls. If they ask you to apply heat on a target, that means heat your weapon systems and give them as much nuke as you can. Generally, as the tackle pilot, those kind of instructions aren't as important to you. Obviously, if you're in like an assault frigate or a destroyer or something like that, then yes it does. As a rule though, when you undock or jump through a gate or session change for whatever reason, it will cancel the heat on modules, or cancel like your heat status, I should say. The heat damage will still be there, but if you've got something heated by shift clicking it, as you'll see me doing now, that heat status will cancel if you go through a gate. So the very first thing you should do after decloaking, after going through a gate, is preheat your module. Shift click that tackle module. So it'll be the long point. If you're in a fleet scepter, it'll be your long point and your scram. If you're a scram web ship, preheat the scram, don't preheat the web. Unless your heated web range is the same as your heated scram range, which is not often, the web will normally go a little bit further. What you really have to avoid is accidentally webbing a guy before you've scrammed him, because at that point what you're doing is making him align faster and making him warp out quicker. So do beware of heating webs if you're a scram ship, because you don't want to get him out quicker. You want to catch him. So get the scram on before you get the web on. So yeah, in fact, if we look here, yeah, my scram range is 9,900 meters, and my heated web range is 13 kilometers. So it would be very easy for me to accidentally web the dude and make him warp off quicker before I actually manage to stop him from warping. So here you can see with an unheated web and a heated scram, it's literally 100-meter difference. So it's almost nothing. So that's pretty perfect. So yeah, so when you undock, when you go through a gate, preheat those points, preheat those scrams. The first cycle of tackle on any ship should always be with heat. And the reason for it is very simple, is because you want that first cycle to be at the maximum range possible. You want to give yourself every possible chance of catching the dude. Immediately cycle off the heat as soon as you caught him. As soon as you're kind of inside your unheated point range, you just turn off the heat, and you can keep the module cycling while you do that. Again, you just shift click it while the module is still cycling. It'll decycle the heat, but the module will keep running. You don't need to turn off the module. But yeah, that very first tackle, that very first engagement should be with heat. You want to catch them at maximum range. You don't ever want to see a guy warping off at like 34 kilometers from you when you've got a 30k point range or 36 heated. So that's why you heat. So just make sure that first cycle, always heat for it. And yeah, a good way to get into the habit of doing that is just preheat the modules as soon as you can. Okay. Right, so for the final bit, we're just going to talk a little bit about hunting and fleet scouting and fleet combat. So hunting is one of the roles that you're going to be doing as a scout in Brave fleets, especially if you're going to kind of, you're going over to OSY or something like that. You're going to fraternity space or anywhere really. You want to have the ability to hunt people quickly, and also in Brave space as well. The ability to track down where guys are and what they're doing is a very important skill. For my example, I'll talk about kind of finding, say, a VNI, but this really does apply to absolutely anything. So you're the scout for a fleet. You've just jumped into a system, you've checked local, you've checked your overview, and you've checked your D-scan, and you've reported those things back to your FC. So you've jumped in, you're like 2 local, nothing on grid, VNI on D-scan. At the point where you're saying VNI on D-scan, that's, something's on. So that's when you need to start trying to find this VNI. And the way that you do this is, first of all, by narrowing down range. So on your D-scan window, you've got like a range slider down at the bottom. By default, 14.3 AU is the highest scan range that you can have. So if somebody's shown up on that 14.3 AU scan, they're somewhere inside 14.3 AU. Fantastic. So the next thing you want to do is drop it down to the first notch, which will be the 10 AU notch. And you can do that just simply by left clicking. And any rough left click kind of in that direction will put it to 10 AU. If you can still see the thing you're trying to scan down on the 10 AU, then it means great, okay, so he's closer than 10. That's fantastic. If you then drop it to 5 and he disappears, then you're like, okay, well now I know he's between 5 and 10 from where I am right now. So let's try to narrow that down even more. So what you do is, if you mouse wheel over the up and down arrows in your direction meter, you can simply mouse wheel up, and then every few 0.1 AU, you just hit V, which should be your D-scan button. And essentially all you're doing, you're rolling up until he pops back onto your overview again. And then at the point where he's popped back onto your overview, you can, if you want to narrow it down even further and be even more precise, you can just kind of roll back by like 1 or 2, hit V, and then at some point what's going to happen is you will find a range where at like 6.8 he won't be there. 6.8 he won't be there, and then at 6.7 he will. So you'll be like, right, fantastic, that's where he is. Sorry, that was meant to be the other way around. At 6.7, yeah, he won't be there, but at 6.8 he will. So you'll be like, right, great, I know exactly the range he is from me now. Fantastic. So it's a VNI. He's probably going to be running a site. So let's find out which site that is. So at that point, you drop your angle to 5 degrees. You know that he's, say, for example, 6.8 from you. So we go up to our probe scanner window. The probe scanner window can be a little bit awkward in that it does not refresh until you change one of the sorting icons. So like, you have to refresh it by like sorting the distance up and down or whatever it is you need to do. So at that point, what you would do is come over to your D-scan, your probe scan window over here. You'd sort it by distance, and you would look for which anomaly is approximately the right distance for where I want to go. And then at that point, because you've got your scan set to 5 degrees, if you hold your D-scan key and press V, what it will do is give you a 5-degree D-scan of that site. Also, if you have, as I have here, my system map window open, it will actually turn the camera as well to face the site. However, if you close the system map menu like that, it won't turn the camera, but it will still give you a D-scan of what's going on in that site. It occurs to me now that I probably actually like set somebody up in a site deliberately just to actually kind of show this as a better example. Maybe I'll do that for the next class. But it's something that you can very easily practice, kind of like if you just jump into a system and you just want to kind of practice your D-scanning, just do it exactly like that. So you narrow the range down, set the angle to 5 degrees, and then just kind of hold your D-scan key, click on the anomaly that you want to scan down, and you've got an instant 5-degree scan of that anomaly. I would also point out that if you hold V, and I can't do this while pressing push to talk, but if you hold the D-scan key and then drag and drop a window over the thing you want to descan, like this, then it will give you a 5-degree scan of that item in space. So if you can see where somebody's warping, or you think there are a few kind of like, oh, you might have gone to the asteroid belt and you just want to give it a quick scan, bosh, done. There you go. Thing scanned. So there's absolutely no need to warp to anything that is in range of you without descanning it first and finding out if the thing that you want to catch is there. So in this example, we've located our VNI. So we know he's at, like, let's say he's doing the Sancha hidden den or something. I've got him on 5-degree scan there. So I've hit him on the 5-degree, and a couple of things will happen next. I will right click the anomaly and I'm going to warp to 10. I would never ever recommend warping to 0 on one of these ratting anomalies for 2 reasons. First reason is quite often they have annoying collidable objects at 0, which you can get stuck in, which is really, really dumb, and you'll just bounce around off the stupid structure for ages while you watch your target warp away to safety, and it'll trigger the hell out of you. And I've tried and tested that, and it definitely triggers the hell out of you. So don't do that. The other reason you want to warp to 10 is just occasionally, it doesn't happen often, but just occasionally, the guys will be smart bombing at 0, waiting for you in like 3 Macarials, for example. And then you will just land at 0 in the middle of their smart bombing max, and you will die immediately and get podded, and you'll be back in GE before you even know what happened, and you'll have to explain that to your fleet as to why they don't have a tackle anymore. So yeah, those are the reasons to warp to 10. As you land on grid, hopefully the guy is still there if he's not paying attention. As you first land, you have a huge advantage over almost every other ship in the game. Because you're very small and your SIG is very, very small, it takes a long time for anybody to lock you up, or at least a lot longer than it would do to lock up like a cruiser or battle cruiser or anything big. So generally, when I'm landing on grid with a VNI, the very first thing I will do is I will already have my point heated, and I will just be spamming approach on him. So I'll be spamming approach, I'll turn my micro warp revive on the second that I can, and I will go straight at him. Like no hesitation at all. Don't worry about orbits, don't worry about anything else. The second you get that point on, you communicate to your FC that you've got your target pointed. So it'll be VNI pointed, walk to Vargrin. VNI pointed, walk to Vagrin. If you want, you can tell them which anomaly you've been to, like going WHT anomaly, VNI on 5-degree, and then you land, VNI pointed, walk to Vagrin. So once you've got your point on, then you start worrying about things like applying orbits and all the rest of it. Obviously, the vast majority of VNIs are not really an issue. Just keep them long pointed and it's fine. You can keep up with them forever. There's no point in trying to scram them because they'll be 100 MN fit. Just occasionally you will get like a bait VNI who will try to actually catch and kill you. So it's just all the more reason not to be inside scram range. So once you get that initial point on, that's the point at which you can kind of quite safely hit your orbit button, get your orbit going, just kind of maintain, make sure that he's staying inside of your, comfortably inside your point range, adjust the orbit if necessary to like a little bit less. But just make sure that kind of you're very nicely circling him and he's got no chance to get away. And then all you really need to do at that point is micromanage your own reps and worry about whether his drones catch up with you. Most of the time, if you're maintaining a nice high speed at around a 20-kilometer orbit, drones will not often be an issue. They'll have a lot of trouble applying to you easily. You're going to be very speedy, very small SIG, and the way that drones work is that they'll micro warp drive to catch up with you, fire, like stop micro warp driving once they've reached you, and then fire. But because drones are kind of dumb, they'll micro warp to catch up with you, stop and fire once, but then you'll have gone out of range, so they'll have to micro warp drive again to catch up with you, and then they'll stop, and then they'll shoot, but then you'll go out of range, and then they'll just kind of keep doing that. So they have a lot of trouble applying good damage to you. And the second your fleet lands, as long as you make sure, I will often ask for somebody to call secondaries when they've got it. If you find you're having trouble from the drones or anything like that, that's the point at which you can warp off. As soon as somebody else has said point or scram or something like that, you can get the hell out of there. Your job is done. No need for you to stick around and die or take one for the team. Don't care too much about the pod or anything like that. You can just get off the field if you're going to die. Because as I've said many, many times, dead tackle doesn't tackle anything, so staying alive is always important. So once you've done that initial job and you've got the caught bloke, somebody else has taken over with the tackle, there's like a bigger ship that's got him pointed, you can just fuck right off, just warp out to the closest thing in front of you and walk back in again at your leisure, because then the drones will be off you, he'll probably be E-ward, he'll probably be dead, and you should hopefully land back on the grid in time to blap the pod as well. So yeah, that's the general kind of like hunting, descanning. That's how you track people down in a system with reasonable speed. Obviously, all of these tricks also apply to things like celestial bodies.
Guys, is there an SC here?
Is he in this channel? Or is that shouting from somewhere else? Whatever, I'll carry on.
I think this needs a fleet.
Yeah, shouting from Catch 1.
Can I say one quick thing about D-scan?
Yeah, please do. Please do.
If you want to do it a little quicker, instead of clicking for the ranges, you can actually use your mouse wheel. And if you give it like a little bit of pause...
Evictus doesn't know which fleets to join. Are they up yet?
If you give it a little bit of pause, it'll automatically D-scan for you again.
There's people waiting.
Oh my god, this dude.
But yeah, you can use the mouse wheel instead of having to manually click. If you hold your mouse over the slider bar for the range, and same thing for holding it over angle or over the number.
Oh, cool. Yeah. I've never actually tried holding over the bar. So yeah, you can see if you're watching the stream now, I'm just mouse wheeling up and down there. That is useful, yeah. There you go. That's like a couple of seconds saved. But yeah, all I was doing was just left clicking in the things. But yeah, if you want to mouse wheel up and down, then do it that way instead. Cool. Thank you. Good tip. Okay, so that's the hunting part of it. I realise I've been talking for quite a while. There is one last section, which is the fleet tackle section. This is by a mile the most complicated bit and the part that will get you killed far more than anything else. Best of luck. So, you're getting into a fleet fight. You're the scout for a fleet fight. Obviously, you've reported back to the FC what's happening, what's on grid. The FC has decided to take the fight, or the fleet has jumped in, or for whatever reason, the fight has kicked off. Generally, you're not going to be the person instigating it. You're just trying to feed the information back to your FC. You don't ever want to put yourself in the position where the FC has to come and save you, or even make a decision whether they have to save you. That should never be something an FC has to care about. You should be able to operate independently of them and do what they want you to do and tackle things and be in the places they want you to be, and they should never be worried like, oh, is he going to die? Am I going to have to like go and try to save him because otherwise we've got no tackle? So don't be a liability. Don't give your FC those decisions to make. Just be sensible, be smart, and try to kind of support him as best you can without ever getting yourself murdered for no reason. So you've brought it back to your FC about everything. He's decided to take the fight. At this point, the FC obviously has started calling targets. His logi is dealing with broadcasts. People are getting in position. People are ranking up. All the rest of this stuff is going on. You've been in fleet fights. You know how it works. What you should be doing is the very first thing is you evaluate what the grid looks like. So this is where having brackets showing is a good idea, so that you can have a really good idea of like what the 3D space is that you're fighting in. Where are people positioned? Like, where is the enemy fleet? Where is the enemy tackle? Where is the enemy logi? Where is your fleet in contrast to that? Where are the easy warp out points? Where are bubbles if they are on grid? Where are exit points from bubbles where you could be positioned so your fleet could warp out to you if necessary? You want to be thinking about all of these things. You also want to be thinking about exactly what it is you are fighting. Are they long-range ships? Are they going to have trouble tackling? Are they missile-based ships that are going to have trouble applying? Are they jackdaws who would absolutely destroy tackling? You have to be incredibly careful ever getting close to them. Is it like a bunch of, if it's ships with great tracking, if it's ships which are incredibly dangerous to tackle, is there even an opportunity for me to do anything here other than provide warp-ins? If that's the case, go provide warp-ins. If it's like a bunch of Orthruses and Serbs and that kind of stuff, where it's just like instant death to tackle that gets close to it, then you want to fight conservatively. You don't want to just fly in there and just be like, oh yeah, guys, I've got this jackdaw attack. Oh, I'm dead. Oh, okay, guys, I've got this Ortho attack. Oh, I'm dead. Don't be that guy. There's no need to waste your ship on that. You'll learn, and it does takes time, but you will learn very quickly what the ships are that are exceptional at killing dudes like you. And when you have mass numbers of them, you have to understand that if you're in a tackle frigate or like a saber or something like that, and you fly straight to the enemy fleet, that enemy FC is just going to call you primary, and you will be done in less than a second. Like, you won't even have time to activate that tank module. You will just be dead because you will get alphaed by everybody in the fleet, and it'll be fucking over. So grid awareness and understanding of what kind of ships are there is very important, because in addition to that, you will also find it's like quite often it'll be the other way around, where it'll be like, oh hey, it's a bunch of like Feroxes or Hurricanes or Drakes. Most of these aren't going to apply very well to me, if at all. I'm pretty confident that I can kind of, you know, avoid a lot of their damage just by my tiny sig radius and my incredible speed. And so I can be a lot more bold here. And what I can do is listen to the primaries, listen to the FC calling which ships he wants to die, and I can be like, all right, well, I'll go and point that thing. I'll make sure he doesn't get away. And at that point, you're essentially taking the role of like an Arazu in a Stratop, where you're like, point the primaries, don't let the primaries get out, don't let them walk away. Keeping stuff on the field to make sure it dies is very, very important, and it's something that tackle should definitely be doing in these kind of fights. So if it's possible, you should absolutely look to do that. Communication of points and scrams during these kind of fleets is absolutely vital, and it's one of the few things that you should speak up about as tackle. If you manage to scram something, let the FC know very, very quickly. It doesn't have to be a huge speech, but it can just be like Narca in a Basilisk scrammed, or something like that. You know, scram on Narca in a Basilisk, and it's up to the FC if they want to call that guy as the primary. You've fed the information back, and they can act on that if they wish. They may choose not to. They may have better targets to go for. They may have to be doing something completely else. There might be other things going on that you don't even know about. So at any given moment, you should be ready to drop that scram and run if it looks like you're going to get in trouble. Don't hold it until you die. That's not your job. You know, your job is to apply it when you can. So yeah. Make sure you're communicating all of these kind of things, both to the FC and to the rest of the fleet, because other guys who are flying tackle also need to know if you've got something tackle, because it means that they can go and look for something else. And likewise, if you are that guy who hears, like, if I say I've got Narca tackle in a Basilisk, you go, all right, I'm going to go and tackle Atoll in a Basilisk instead then, if you're just trying to murder DEQC members for a laugh. But yeah, it's, you know, so you can spread tackle, you can move on to the next thing. And again, you feeding this information back to an FC can help the FC choose primaries, because if he knows something's scrammed, he knows its velocity is going to be cut, he knows he's going to apply better to it. These are all things that an FC wants to know. He wants to do maximum damage, he wants to kill their fleet quickly. So, you know, do communicate these things back. Just don't be talking the entire fucking time. Just like short statements, like just literally the name of the guy you've got tackled. So yeah, I talked a bit before about ship identification, so stuff like knowing what kind of ships tend to have like blasters, scrams, webs, which ones have rapid light missile systems, which ones, you know, are especially dangerous to you, and so on. So you've got a 15-minute pre-ping. We should be fine for that. You also need to know kind of which ships are going to track you well, which ships will specifically be trying to hunt tackle, so kind of look out for destroyers and these kind of things. Like, you know, obviously I mentioned jackdaws before, but generally all of the T3Ds can be very, very scary to tackle ships. So, you know, just kind of over time you will obviously learn pretty quick which ones are incredibly dangerous. As a general rule, rapid light and light missile systems are very scary to tackle ships, because they still apply very well, even if you're going very fast, even if you have a very small sig. They don't care about transversal at all, so they're always going to be kind of applying damage. So for that reason, anything that you fight against which has light missiles or rapid light missiles is to be feared. And that's what I talked about before when I said those moments where you know you're going to die, but you have to go for scram. And that will be very specifically on things like Orthruses and Osprey Navies and those kind of ships, where it's like it's a blingy kill and it's like worth trading Interceptor for. Point when you're going to do it, that you're not selling your life for nothing. So make sure that when you make that decision that I'm going to go in, I'm going to scram him, I'm probably going to die for it, the more guys you have ready behind you to be able to walk to you, to be able to nuke the crap out of him, to be able to ECM him out so that you might live, the better. So again, try to let people know if you're going in for one of those type of scrams. Generally, you're not doing that kind of stuff during big fleet fights. That's more of a kind of catch standing type thing. But again, you know, just you'll learn it with experience. Just give it time. In a fleet fight, very rarely are you going to be pressing your orbit button, because orbiting in those kind of situations can quite often get you killed, because your orbit range will take you through the enemy fleet and closer to the stuff you don't want to be close to. So in those kind of situations, you're manual piloting almost all the time. Manual piloting is literally just double clicking in space in a direction. There is no shortcut to getting good at manual piloting. Just do it all the time is all I can really recommend. Yeah?
I could actually talk about manual piloting soon, TM. Not today, though. I have to jump to AT
Marcus, I would be
now.
super happy for you to set up a class on that. The only thing I'm a little concerned about is we've just had a 15-minute pre-ping, so I want to kind of crack on a little bit just to get this class done. But yeah, definitely do that in future. I'd be more than happy to sit in on that one. So yeah, manual piloting obviously is very important during fleet fights. You don't want your orbit to carry you through the middle of their fleet. You want to stay on your fleet's side of the fight, essentially, so that you're in range for your logi, so that you're in range for the rest of the ships to catch up, so the damage is actually being applied to the thing that you're tackling. There's no point in tackling something that's like 200 kilometers away when your fleet's engaged in a fight on the other side of the gate, because they're not going to get to you. They're not going to be any help. So again, grid awareness is a big part of it. Know where your fleet is, know if it's worth you going for a tackle, because quite often I will see like some hero Atron going in and tackling some dude. It'll be like, guys, I've got scram on this dude, come and help me. And it's like, yeah, but you're like 100 kilometers away and we're already fighting a fleet over here, so I don't know what you think is going to happen. And then he just dies, and it's like, well, that's tackle that could have been better used elsewhere. So yeah, just try not to do that. Always try to kind of be in a position where your fleet can assist. If your fleet can't assist, don't put yourself in harm's way. There's no need to do that. Drive-by scramming. Drive-by scramming is something which you'll find comes up a lot more often in these kind of fleet fights. What I mean by a drive-by scram is a warp scrambler obviously shuts off the micro warp drive of the ship that you use it against. Now, quite a lot of the time in the heat of combat, when shit's going down and people are blowing up around you and there's a lot of stuff to manage and you're worrying about your heat and your drones and trying to keep people alive or trying to shoot them or whatever it is that you're doing, not be able to process all the various things that are going on. So when some interceptor who's been maintaining this, like, you know, this 20k distance manually piloting around, just pointing you, very quickly zooms in to about 13-14 kilometers and just hits one cycle of his heated scram and then retreats back out to 20 kilometers, you would be amazed how many people do not notice that they're not scrammed anymore after that point and never turn their micro warp drive back on until they die. Like, they die before the micro warp drive ever gets noticed. So what you've done there is, by drive-by scramming them, so essentially just nipping into the edge of scram range, scramming them, and then getting back out to your point range, is for very, very little personal risk to yourself. You've essentially stopped them and then maintained your safe distance, so there's not much they can do to you still, while basically killing them, because their speed was their only defense at that point. So this obviously requires manual piloting. This again is something that you're going to need to get used to learning how to do. Generally, the way that I'll do it is I'll be kind of, you know, double clicking in space, maintaining my 20 kilometers, and I'll try to kind of nip in towards the rear of where they're heading. So basically kind of like towards the back of the ship, so that they're kind of moving away from me as well, because I want that amount of time that I'm inside of their scram web newt range to be really, really minimized. So I'll drive in. The second that I can see that it's activated, I will immediately retreat back out again and go back to kind of maintain my 20-25 kilometer distance. Practice drive-by scramming, try to get good at it. Try to kind of learn where those distances are that you can switch people off at. Obviously, fleet interceptors are especially good at this because you get the bonus to point and scram range. Obviously, heating the scram you do every single time because it's only really going on for one cycle there, and you just want to be able to do it from the maximum range and then retreat again. So yeah, in these kind of fights as well, you will often find that there are times when you just have to get off the field, really. Staying on the field would be suicidal when you can see a swarm of drones coming, when you can see like a few of those jackdwarfs have started to yellow box you, and you're like, okay, shit's about to get real. Always warp off is what I would advise. Like flying tackle should be very much like flying E-War, unless you're specifically going for this hero tackle on this ship that has to die and you're confident that your fleet is able to back you up with the DPS to kill it. Warp off. There's no sense in dying. Dead tackle doesn't tackle anything should be like the motto of this talk or whatever, but yeah. So very last thing, at the end of a fight, there's a few more things that'll happen. Obviously, if your side has lost the fight, what you're trying to do is provide suitable warp outs or assist anybody who might be caught by tackle. Like if one of your Logi has got caught by a stiletto, go and try to tackle that stiletto, get that Logi saved. If you can sacrifice your tackle ship for that Logi ship escaping, you've done a damn good job, and that Logi pilot will be very grateful, and as he should be. And quite a lot of the time when I've lost scepters, it's been doing stuff like that, and every single one has been worth every single ISK that I've spent on it. Because if it gets a more expensive ship off the field and you trade for your ship, then you've done a really good job there. So that's very much one of those situations where you should look to do it. On the other hand, if the fight's going well, if you see that they are starting to warp off, that's the point at which, and I wish CCP had an option for this, that if you could sort your overview by value, that's when you would do it. And you would basically pick the most expensive thing and tackle that. So you want to have a good idea of, like, if there is something overly expensive on the grid comparison to everything else, point that shit. Do not let him get away. Keep that guy on the grid, grab tackle. The rest of his fleet's going to be warping off. It's the point of the fight at which you can be the most bold. You can literally dive on people, go for scrams, do all of the stuff, because very quickly targets are going to be warping off. Your fleet is going to be blapping anybody that's left in insanely short time. So you just want to grab dudes and you want to make sure that as many guys stay on grid as you can. It's why communicating points and scrams are important, so that the other people know if you've got a dude, they'll be like, right, he's already caught that guy, I'll go catch somebody else. And you keep as many of those guys there as possible, because you won the fight, you want to really win it. Don't worry about looting, don't worry about any of the rest of it. You know, the reward for a good tackle pilot is people will be like, that's a fucking great tackle pilot right there. And trust me, if people know you're a good tackle pilot, you'll do well, because people give you loot from stuff that you catch. I don't loot hardly anything in comparison to some of the guys who loot well, but I get given quite a lot of loot because people are like, dude, that was a great scram, you caught that dude, here, have this, he dropped something blingy. And I'm like, that's fucking awesome. So, you know, really worth doing. If they are starting to warp off, obviously be watching very carefully where it is they're warping to. You warp faster than almost any other ship in the game. You can absolutely go and catch some dudes. If you see them warping to a gate, just go. You don't need your FC's permission to do this. You don't need anyone's permission. You're a tackle. You know, you're essentially kind of reasonably disposable. No one's going to get too upset if you die in your Atron or your Malediction or whatever it is. But if you can warp to that gate that they've just gone to, if you can catch them with aggression still on the Citadel, you can communicate that back, and that's even more kills. And that's fantastic work for tackle to be doing in those kind of fleet fights. So good understanding of what Citadel and station and gate mechanics are, and what aggression timers are, and all the rest of that. I'm not going to go into like all of that stuff. I'm sure many of you know already. Right, I think that is about it. I've rushed a little bit through the last bit of it because I know we've got some pings coming up, but if there's any questions or anything anybody wants to add, now would be the time.
When do I get my dank Brave Bucks payouts?
I mean, do you mean how long does it take from when you click the button? Or because that's not up to me.
Just knowing all this info that made you a millionaire.
Yeah. Well, certainly I do. Like I say, I do very well out of Brave Bucks. and you will find that if you're a good tackle pilot, you will too, because definitely one of the big things. Like, I wasn't a tackle pilot at all before I joined Brave, but when I came to Brave, one of the things that was really clear was that stuff needs to be caught a lot better.
Okay, I'm back. Did you repeat all that again?
Fuck you, weapon. Actually, you know what? I don't even have to. It's on my Twitch. Yeah, check my Twitch, yo. Look at me. I'm fucking down with the technology.
Yeah, man.
All seriousness, though, Vargrin, thanks a lot for that.
Yeah,
Best
you're
class
most
ever.
welcome.
Thank you.
And like I said, guys, I'm online plenty. Convo me anytime you want fits or anything like that, or just talk about it or anything more. Please do so. And there's plenty of experienced guys who've been listening in this channel too. Feel free to contact them. And yeah, thanks very much, everybody. And let's go back to Catch 1 and hopefully kill some stuff.
Vargrin,
Yes.
you left out the most important tip.
What was it?
Always watch list Vargrin, because he will always be in the middle of the action.
Oh, actually, hang on. Wait, there is one thing you didn't miss out when you were docking the other #1 rule. Insure your motherfucking ship.
Oh yes, ship insurance. Yes, very true. Very true.
well, unless it's faction or T2, in which case, no point. I mean, I don't anyway.